So hello everyone, welcome back to this new video. So in the previous video, we have seen about collection mapping. So here we are going to see about the different types of mapping that are supported by the JPA. The first one is one-to-one mapping. So which means that one entity is associated with a single other entity, right? So a simple example can be, suppose we have a person entity and a passport entity. So this tells that a single person can have or can hold a single passport, right? So that is an example of one-to-one mapping. So mapping means like the connection between the two entities. Then we also have another annotation in this, that is the join column. So here the name that stands for the foreign, like for example, if I am saying that the person entity is connected with that of the passport entity. So in the person entity, we will have a field that is passport ID, right? Which is nothing but the foreign key of which is telling us a reference to that of the passport entity table, which is a primary key of the passport entity, but it has become now a foreign key in person entity, right? So the reference column name is nothing but the foreign key. So here the foreign key is which is the passport ID, right? Next is about one to many. So when we talk about one to many, the example best can be is like one department. Like for example, there is one employee. So this employee has an option to select only one department, but at the same time, department or multiple employees can select that department. For example, suppose we are saying that person A can select a department, has selected a department which is HR, but that HR department can also be selected by other persons like suppose B, C, D, etc. This is an example of one to many. So here one is nothing but the department and many is the employees, right? Similarly, when so in the employee table, the mapping will be of many to one, and in the department table, the mapping will be from one to many. Okay, so as one is for department and many is for employees. Similarly, the annotations are again the same. We will see in the coding part that how it is happening. Next is the many to many. So now many to many is just about when multiple instances are associated with the multiple instances of other entities. So best example here we can say is like if we have student and courses. So each student has option to select multiple courses. At the same time, multiple courses can be selected by multiple students, right? So here just the syntax, like here the syntax was same, like with one to one annotation, we have to also give the join column, right? But or one to many, we have to also give the join column. But in many to many, we give like we make a separate table where we are going to store this mappings, like for example, as we are talking about student and courses. So in student table we will only have the values like a student ID, name, and the course that he has particularly selected, etc. That is optional. Then there will be a second different table that will be maintaining the relationships between both of them, like student ID with one has selected the course ID as two. It's like that, and there will be again a course table. So in this way, three tables will be created in many to many, right? So here that is nothing but the annotation for that is the joint table. So here what we are having is the name or the name of the new table which is going to be created. Then in joint column we are going to name the first column of our table which is nothing but the foreign key. So like we are talking about students and tables. So primary key of the student table will be the foreign key of this table. Okay. So in joint column we will give the foreign key of table 1. Similarly for inverse joint column we will give foreign key of table 2. Okay. So now one by one, let's see the coding part for this. Now let's start with one-to-one mapping. Okay. So when we talk about one-to-one mapping, so for that, suppose we are creating it for employee and department, where first is like one employee can select only one department. For that, I need to create one more entity, that is department department entity. Sorry, the spelling department entity, right? Then we will click on finish. So the department entity, then we will name it as entity, right? Then we will give the table as a name equal to department entity. Okay. So let's import the particular libraries table. Okay. Now what we have is ID, which is nothing but uh, private in department ID and private string department name. Okay. Now let's create getters and setters and constructor for the same. So getters, setters, select all, generate, and a default constructor, generate. Okay. So this is about the simple creation of a department entity. Now in employee entity, we are going to include this department entity with one-to-one mapping. So syntax for this is what? 1, 2, 1, @ join column. Then here name is nothing but we are saying as DPT ID and reference column is nothing but we are saying suppose the primary key of that is the DID. Okay, DID, and down here we will give that is private department entity department. Okay, now let's import this one by one. Import and then import join column. I guess the spelling is wrong here. Change to reference column. Yeah. Okay. So next is we are going to generate getters and setters. That is source generate getters and setters. Select all and then generate. Okay. So we are done with now employee entity. So we are just done the one-to-one mapping. Okay. So before that, we are also going to create an object for department entity. Department entity, that is nothing but what we can say department entity, then d1 which is equal to new department entity entity, right? So first let's import this. It would be d1 dot set did as suppose 1 and d1 dot set d name as suppose Java. Now next is let's set one more department, that is entity d2 equal to new department entity, then d2 dot set as 2 and d2 dot set name as suppose SQL. Okay, this will remain same. Then we are going to persist it, that is dem dot persist with, first we are going to persist dem and then we are going to persist that is d2. Okay, now after this like we are going to set the particular department for a particular student. So I will do this, that is e1 dot set department, and suppose for first person we are setting it as d1. Okay, and for e2 we are setting the department as set department as suppose d2. Okay, so in this way we are setting the department for the particular students as d1 d2, and now let's run the application and see what is happening. Let's run it. Okay, so the connection has been set up. Let's go and check in our database. So this is our department entity. Yeah, so in here we are particularly having like one with department ID 1 and department ID. In department entity we have stored the particular departments, and in employee entity we had also mapped it as 1 to 1. Like for employee ID 1, the name is this and it belongs to department 1. So here we are getting the details about related to which department it belongs. Okay, so this was about 1 to 1. Now let's check for 1 to many. So for 1 to many, as we know, like in the employee table we have to, this reference will remain the same. Just we have to do is many to 1, many to 1. Okay, so for many to 1 we will first give the annotation, that is at the rate many to 1 in the employee table, because there are many instances of employee and single entity of department, so this will remain the same. The change that will happen is in the department entity. So here what we have to do is like we have to give 1 to many mapping, right? So it will change as 1 to many. Okay, and then what we have is here we have to give the map by parameter. So mapped by parameter is basically telling that with which table or values we are mapping. So here as the value for the department entity, which is the foreign key here is department, so that we are going to pass in the map by value. So this tells that who will own that relationship. So let's import it map by department. Okay, and then what we are going to do is create a list to store the employees, that is employee entity, and then what we have is suppose employees. Okay, employees which is equal, that is a, we are going to create it a array list as we saw in the previous mappings, right? Array list. Let's import this one by one first, that is employee and then array list. Okay, let's save this. So this is how we are going to create many to one and many to one to many. So many to one as multiple instances with single instance of department. So in employee we have given many to one, and in department single instance of department, hence one to many, and mapped by tells that who will own that relationship. Okay, So after this, we have to change the values over here. So what we are doing is, first we have set the departments as DS and OOPS. Okay. Then we have assigned the particular departments to the students. Like with student E1 has selected department that is DSL, and E2 has selected the department that is object oriented programming, and E3 has again selected the object oriented programming. Now what we have to do is, now we have to, like as here department entity, we have created a list in which we are going to fill that for a particular department. Like as we talk about the department that is one, which is Java, so how many employees are present for that department. So in this list we are going to store the values. One more thing is, like as we have added employee entity but we have not created getters and setters for this, so here we will first create it, so then only we can save the data in the list, right? Generate. Now let's do it, control S. Now it will happen. So when we are doing b1 dot get employees, okay, and then so who all have selected D1 is just employee E1. So here we will pass the value as E1, right? Now for D2 we will set it. So get that is get employees, okay, and add. What we are going to add is the first is E2, that employee 2 has selected oops, and then another employee has selected it as nothing but E3, right? So in this way. Now next we are going to persist the related data about the departments in the database, right? So here what we will do is em dot persist, first is D1, and then em dot persist, that is D2. Okay, then after this, now suppose we have to print the list, like what the code, like this the department list, to in order to know that how many employees are there who have selected department 1 and 2. Okay, so for this we will simply run a for loop, that is employee npt, okay, which is of emp. Then what we are doing is given dot get employees, okay, that is we are printing that the name of employees who have selected the department. Dot print ln, okay, and then here we will pass, that is employee names, okay. I've selected particular departments, right? So that is nothing but here it will be, that is emp dot get name. Okay, now let's run and see what all changes was happening. 3 4, yeah, let's run this. So the connection has been set up. For value ID 3, the department associated is 3, and for ID 4, the department associated is 4. That is DSA and OOPS. But the fifth value is not printed because we have not persisted it to the database, right? So em dot persist. If we will do E3, then because of this, the value is missing of E3 here. Okay, so this is the changes that we have to do. Yeah. And in the console also, you can see the data that has been printed. Like we have selected the department that is 1. That was our Java was selected only by gems. So the details have also been printed in the console. Okay. Now let's come to many to many. So for many to many, the changes that we have to do is here in employee entity, we have to just change the annotation first to many. Then in many to many, we have joined table, right? We have seen the syntax like in the theory part. So join table, okay, and then what we pass is first, okay. So name of the new table that is going to be created. So I guess the name that I have given to my table is department ID, which is this, okay. So it is going to be DEPT ID, DEPT ID, okay. Then next is about the join columns, okay, which is going to be at the rate join column, the syntax for join column, which we have given previous also, which is the name of the column. So the name of the column first is ID, right? And that is the primary key of student, sorry, not student, employee table, right? And next is inverse join column, which is equal to at the rate join column, which is nothing but name is equal to department ID. Okay, so let's first import related things. So many to many, then import join table. Okay, and change. Okay, so the spelling correct one is this. Okay, so now as it is going to be a list, right, of departments, as a particular employee can select multiple departments. So here we are going to create the list of the department, array list. So that is department entity. Then what we have is suppose department. Okay, and then we are going to create as an array list, like array list. Okay, let's just save it. And then here we have to generate the new getters and setters, right? So for that, let's go source, generate getters and setters, select all, generate. Okay, so for particular, it has been generated. So this was about many to many notation. Then the department entity will remain as it is. Just we have to change here to many to many. That is many to many. Then we have to first import it mapped by department, and here also we will have a list because each department can be selected by multiple employees, right? Now here the values will change, like for person. Now what will happen here is, as it's a list, right? So it will be like even dot get department dot which department we have to add is suppose D2, that is CN department. Persisting the data in the database, but before persisting, we are also what we are doing is the data of related employees, the departments they have selected in the database. Then we are saving the employee related data, and then we are saving the department related data. That, like, so here this will change, like department 1 has been selected by just one employee, that is E2, right? So we will add here E2, and department 2 has been selected by 1 and 3, right? That will be what, 1. Let's just save it. And now here in the console, now we will also print both values. Like first we will tell that which employee has selected department 1. Okay, then next for loop we will keep for telling which employee has selected department 2, right? Department 2. Okay, then next for loop will be getting to know about which department has been selected by a particular employee, like for if department entity is there. Okay, and if I'm passing, let's set it as DEPT. Okay, so it would be what, like suppose for employee 1, right? So E1 dot, it would, this method will change to what, dot dot, that is get department for that particular E1, right? So employee name, what, this will change to department selected by MPF1. Okay, and this is nothing but, now will this change is nothing but DEPT dot get department name. Okay, then similarly we will do it for all other 3 employees also. E2, and yeah, that will remain same. And then for E3 selected by this. Okay, and as we are saying that one employee can like also select multiple departments, right? So for that what we will do is control V. What we will do here is for particular employee, that is 3, we will add one more department, that is get department dot add and D1, like he's selecting all the departments, right? So here when we are printing for E3, all the departments will be printed. Now let's run the application and see. So the connection has been set up, our code is running. Now let's check. So department ID, new departments we have created, they have been listed in the table. Then employee entity. Okay, so for particular them, we are getting the values as null. Okay, so why is this happening? Because now here this value will not be mapped here. Like when now as we are creating a new table, right? In order to store the department ID of a particular employee. So this value is not getting mapped here. In short, it is getting mapped in the new table. That is with this, which is under, that is department ID, which we have created here, as you can see. right? In an employee entity, we have created new table to store the mappings, which is about department ID, right? So whatever the new mappings are, they will be stored in the new table that is department ID. So what it says, like employee with ID 5 has selected department 6. Let's check it in employee table. Okay, first. So employee with ID 5 is Sam, and he has selected which department is 6. That is CN. So let's check in our code, is it same or not, right? So as we can see in persist, that employee with ID has selected the OS, okay? And then in the console also we have printed some values, right? So as we can see that department 1 is just selected by employee whose name is Ritz, and department 2 is selected by two employees, that is Sam and Alice, right? Then department which are selected by employee 1 and 2 are computer network and OS, right? And employee 3 has selected two department, that is CN and OS. Similarly, if we will see for employee 3 details in the database also, we can see that employee third, which was with ID 7, has selected two department, that is 6 and 5. Okay, so this was all about the mapping codes. Mapping, we also have like one more concept which is called as the cascading operations. Now, why are these cascading operations used? So, basically, before understanding this, let's understand a little bit about what are cascading operations. So, as we are saying that between these two entities, like there is a relationship, like on we can say here it is many to many relationships. So what may happen is that suppose if any data that is present in the parent entity and that is associated and it is associated with the child entity. Now what happens if the parent entity data gets deleted? Now this will cause ambiguity in the child entity table as particular, like as we are saying, like if department ID with one gets deleted. Now, what about the employees who were connected or who were assigned their departments, right? So that the value has to be set it as null, or particular records have to be deleted, right? So this types of constants, which we also see in SQL, there are different constants of foreign key. Like if with any value related in the parent table is getting deleted, we have to also delete or update it in the child table also. So this type of to handle this type of constants, we use cascading operations. So wherever like in the here as we have the annotation as many to many, so wherever we use the mapping annotations for like to avoid this type of ambiguity, we have to also define the cascading types. So it is denoted like as cascade type, and there are different types of cascade types. So whatever the cascade type we have to use, we have to define. So first cascade type, if we talk about, is about persistence or persist. So what does persist say is that, in a very simple words, it says that if there is a parent entity, that is like if we are saving any parent entity in the database, then whatever the entities or records are related with that of the parent entity will also be automatically saved in the database. Okay, then the next operation is about the remove. Like again the same, it's just opposite of persist. Like if the parent entity is getting removed, then whatever the entities, child entities are associated with it will also be deleted. Okay, then we have refresh. If we are updating any parent entity, then the values for the child entity will also be updated, right? So these are different types, like persist is there, remove is there, or refresh is there, okay, etc. So depending on our requirement, we can use any of the cascading types. Okay, so we can also use persist, and the best, like if we want that, we have to use that. Like if I am working in a application and I want that like this cascading operation that are related to persistence or remove or refresh should all be handled at one time. So we have to use all. Okay, so in that case what happens, that all the above cascading operations which we have seen, that is remove, refresh, they are particularly present or they are also applied directly to our entity. Okay, so this was all about different types of mapping as well as the cascading operations. I hope you understand this. Thank you.